Well, hello, Simen.
Hello, Philip.
Looks like we're here in Oslo.
Yes, we are.
Managed to make NAB this year?
No, that's very true. We didn't manage to fly over, so we are then broadcasting live.
Exactly.
Here from Oslo to you.
Exactly. Of course, the fortunate thing is that none of our customers managed to make it to any trade shows either.
That's very true.
So in that respect, no one's lost anything really, except a lot of rather useful information that we were rather hoping to tell people about.
That is very true, and that is the main purpose, of course, for trade shows, is to be able to showcase the truth about, what's the latest developments.
Exactly.
And also be able to get people to understand more the niceties of some of these products that is difficult to convey in a web-based form or even in a PowerPoint.
Exactly, yes. And I think that by taking this opportunity to actually use technology to be able to, our own technology, we talk about it all the time. We work in this medium after all.
That is very true.
It should only be natural that we should use it to try and inform as best we can. And I think it's a nice little, a nice format in which to do things.
I think so too. And again, thank you very much to our dear friends at YouTube, which are helping us with this one, which is very, very cool. So, what are we talking about today?
Well, we're going to be looking at ISM.
That is very true.
And I'm sure that, well, we know what it means, but a lot of people out there probably don't know what it means. Integrated Services Monitoring.
That is very true.
Perhaps you'd like to tell us a little bit about integrated services monitoring, because the strange thing is that when I look at it, one of the things that strikes me, it's something old and something new. It's something we've done.
Something borrowed, something blue.
Something blue, exactly. And I'm thinking, well, of course, for us it's obvious, and it's in many ways it's the culmination of what we've been doing for the past 16 years, except it's in a format which we've now given a nice name to. Amongst other things. It's a lot more compact. It contains all of the things that we've been doing over the years, and in a way that is very well integrated.
Yes.
It's always been part of our philosophy. So I'm not going to say I know all the answers, because that's why you're here, is to bring us up to speed on where we're at with ISM.
Yes.
And for a lot of people, I think most people, it's going to be something which is not so known. As I said, NAB wasn't a forum that we could use to talk about it, but this is the place. This is a good place.
This is the place, absolutely. So, shall we just jump into it without any further ado?
That would be an excellent idea.
Yes, I'm going to the presentation side of the studio.
Go.
See you later.
Roll the camera. I think it's rolling already.
So, ISM. One of the key elements with ISM is, of course, that it integrates every single system that we have into one coherent, if you like, interface. So let's run through it and let's see this presentation that I prepared on ISM. And first of all, ISM, the point with ISM is to be useful in all parts of production. And that means that all the way from a normal camera acquisition into production, outside broadcast vehicles, to venues, to contribution links, to master control rooms in distribution of the TV signal, acquisition of TV signal, OTT, of course, distribution over the internet, and final archiving and fault finding. So the integrated services is an approach to quality that then takes the whole production chain, if you like. And the key thing there is to be able to correlate from the acquisition by camera to the distribution center and correlate the same signal so that you'll be able to trace it down through the lines and see this with all the different types of technologies. For instance, you can then see from a venue that you basically have, let's say, a football match, all the way to the final delivery at the internet, and you can then navigate with this system so that it's easy, again, to understand the whole shebang, if you like. So, Philip said it very well that we kind of always had ISM, because we started 16 years ago with the first probe that we made, the famous VB10 portable. And one of the key things we did was kind of new at that stage, and that was to utilize a web-based interface. And a web-based interface is something that we have for absolutely every single one of our products, and that of course enables you to access it from anywhere, especially remote of course, and also it facilitates the easy integration so that you can then utilize the same GUI, if you like, or graphical user interface, which then is HTML based, to see all these different formats, uncompressed, compressed, or kind of whatever. And the key thing there is to try to give you all the valuable network performance insights that you would like to see so that you can be comforted that everything is working correctly. And of course, if there is a problem, to be able to find the problem immediately. And the key thing is that we have, after all these 16 years, technology from any kind of signal source monitored. So you can go onto it with compressed to any kind of transport stream encapsulated or RF distributed, or of course any kind of OTT technology over the internet. We also have a big range of interfaces. You know, on the IP side, we go all the way from 100 megabit all the way to 100 gigabit, basically, or double 100 gigabits in the VB440. We have SDI, ASI, RF interfaces, and basically we also have a different range of other kind of systems, which is then embedded systems, which is excellent for putting on mountaintops. We have appliance-based probes, software-based probes, and of course software control systems. And all this together is basically the ISM system, if you like. So again, it culminates the 16 years of R&D that we've been doing, and again, it's pre-integrated. And this is a very major point, because what we really don't want is the need for a lot of complex bespoke engineering. Because a lot of these systems, they, let's say, come in big pieces, and then of course you have a huge engineering staff which will then sew these kind of pieces together, and we've done all that work for you. So when you start out with our VBC management system and our probes, it's as easy as configuring an IP address to point at the probe. The server will automatically start to download data and to give you valuable insights with only one entry. And that is kind of unique in the world. And that's why we also have the slogan to say that complexity, it's simple. It needs to be simplified because you don't have time to run the system. You want the system's data. That's the essence. So again, the great reduction of bespoke engineering is one of the huge advantages with the ISM system. As Philip mentioned, we were going to show this in all its glory at the NAB Show. We had this amazing setup where we had a huge shuffleboard mounted with 4 cameras and 1 camera in the roof even, and we were going to have a shuffleboard challenge with our friends in Avid and Riedel and Grass Valley and Sony. But alas, we didn't get there. But again, it was the signal source. We were going to show all the production analytics that we can do on the uncompressed side. We were going to show again all the different stuff on contribution, signal acquisition, and also, of course, the ability to monitor terrestrial, satellite, cable, etc., etc. And of course, the very important stream media monitoring. And of course, also the ability to do the archiving. So that was basically the setup for NAB, and we basically did quite a lot of this setup. Let me back. Let's see, the screen sharing just failed me. That's exactly what happens when you go live. So let me see if I can get it back. This will be a test of how fast we can actually get stuff done. And it's trying to connect. And it failed. Oh, that is great. So basically, we'll try to get that presentation online. But the NAB showcase was very, very interesting because it took everything from concept, from multi-camera production, to then basically the distribution. And we worked together with our dear friends at Pear TV to actually install equipment that could do so and showcase the whole production chain. And you know, there is very few people on the planet which have that kind of production chain. One of them is, of course, broadcasters, because broadcasters, they have pretty much everything. They have a lot of studios, they have a lot of uncompressed signals, they have a lot of compressed signals, and of course they have OTT distribution as well. So those are basically, those are the guys that need these type of systems. Actually, I will actually need some help from some of you guys, actually, because I need to get that computer running again. So if our dear Martin, which is the sound guy, can restart that computer, which is the Mac presenter, basically, because I can't connect to it. And when I can't connect to it, well, not much happens. So I'll restart my computer and see if that kind of helps. But without a presentation, it will be a bit boring, basically. What do you think, Philip?
I think that while the slight technical glitch is being overcome, you can come back here and we can perhaps...
That is an excellent idea.
Have a little bit of a talk about...
Absolutely.
What we're trying to show folks here. So you've mentioned the fact that this is a combination of 16 years of work. And one of the things that I noticed was that it's we have 100 gigabit connection, so,
yes.
or input.
Yes.
As far as I know, I don't think anybody else has that kind of capacity, do they?
Well, there is, of course, equipment with 100 gigabit inputs, but
Yes.
from a measurement and analytics standpoint,
Yes.
no, that's the case. We're now leading the industry with that capacity because, again, we can go to pretty much full line speed on extremely accurate analytics
Yes.
for the uncompressed world. And we've been very, very lucky to be able to facilitate the JTNM, basically, which is the group that basically qualifies all these new IP interconnects. And we've been very, very lucky to be able to assist them to qualify all the vendors as well.
When it comes to all the different groups, I mean, we are pretty much into most of the groups that are out there because, I mean, we're compatible and compliant with anything that we need to be compatible and compliant with.
Absolutely, and you know, that has been our kind of modus operandi right from the start, because if there is anything that is true in this world is that there is a ton of different standards.
Yes.
Which is great, and that means that a lot of different people will need different kind of standards or different categories, and we always try to accommodate the absolute maximum number of those. So we all have been members of pretty much any industry congregation there is, basically. And that's also why we now launched the ISM, because we have compatibility with the absolute majority of any kind of signal source there is out there. And that is pretty important, because we know that anything could potentially be relevant.
Yes.
Let's say a broadcaster that I used as an example, they have pretty much anything.
Yes.
So they would pretty much need whatever we can throw at them. So we never say no to a challenge when it comes to providing standard-based solution support.
I think that's one of the things that, one of the challenges that we have is that our products are probably, I know you said complexity, it's simple, and I like the term complexity, it's simple. Actually, we know that it's not simple, but we make it as simplistic as possible so that you don't need a rocket science degree in order to be able to use the equipment.
Well, that's a very fair point, because you know there's a big difference between simplicity and to dumb it down. And I like to use that analogy because a lot of people, they use, you know, kind of like streetlights. You know, red, oh no, that's not working, and green, yes, everything's fine. That doesn't provide you with the detail you would need to actually be less concerned. So we use a ridiculous amount of time in by our development team to try to simplify without dumbify, so that we keep that rich, nice data set available for everybody that need detail, but basically you don't need to understand all the complexity to actually make use of the data.
That's right.
And that is, I think, one of the key benefits from both the ISM and every single probe that we make.
Yes.
Because if you actually monitored IPTV, for instance, with one of the probes, it's dead easy to go and do a different probe with RF or a different probe with OTT, because it's the same mentality around the graphical user interface.
That's right. Yeah.
So it's very, very easy for non-experts to actually get very meaningful data out of this.
That's one of the things that always struck me, was the fact that in the good old days of broadcast, when you'd go into a head end, you know, if it was red, you knew you had to do something about it, and if it was orange, well, maybe I can wait until after we finish something, or if it's green, well, leave it alone and don't touch it because it's working.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of the philosophy that we've tried to have. But that having been said, the thing is that we have this, we give our customers the ability to be able to drill down.
Yes.
And get to the nitty-gritty of what's actually going on. And now, of course, we've gone from milliseconds to microseconds, what is it, picoseconds, what do we have?
Nanoseconds.
Nanoseconds now, when it comes to uncompressed media, because the sheer mass of data that we're looking at in that area.
But drilling down is, as you say, also very valuable, and that's why we don't have a filter on the original data. You can always access the real true data down in that, because that sometimes is very, very useful. But for the most part, you don't need that. You need the high-level descriptions basically about it, so that you can find out what's causing you know, the kind of problem, but we don't hide the data. That's a very, very important part, because again, people are very different, and there are different people within organizations. You know, the people at the MCR in the broadcast station, they will basically need the top level data, but that crazy engineer which is tasked to fixing the problem, he's very, very happy to be able to access all that very low level data.
You know, I remember in my previous life, in the computing world, we talk about WYSIWYG, what you see is what you get.
Yeah.
But of course, with BridgeTech, what you see is not all you get, because what we're actually showing people is like a subset of what's actually available. There's actually a huge amount of data there that we can extrapolate, and depending on customer requirement, then we can make that data available, or as you say, we can drill down to it, or, dare I say, we can also use things like the external integration interface, or using a means of extracting that data.
That's very, very
Other
true.
NMS systems are able to use it, not just, and we have our own turnkey, out-of-the-box VBC, which we'll probably bring up in perhaps some future video bridge controller. But the great thing is that all that data is there.
Yeah.
It's just there saying, well, please use me. And in that respect, we can make that data available and the customer can access it.
It's very true. And I have some good news.
All right, yes.
I actually believe my excellent team has fixed the issue.
They're clever chaps,
so
aren't they?
I'm trying again.
Well, go for it. You're on a roll, Simen.
I'm going for it. Oh, this is awesome. So let's see what we can do, basically. I'm going to logging into my computer. Don't look, I'm giving away my password. And it's always nerve-wracking when you have these live events, basically. But why do we want it live? Again, to make it difficult for ourselves. So we are starting with a screen share, and I'm going to go to the Macintosh in question. And it is connecting, and it's not connecting. All right. Well. Well, I give up. So I'm coming back to you, Philip. Are you ready?
Good.
Okay, good.
As they always say in showbiz, they'll take it out in the edit.
Yeah, absolutely. But we had a, I think, a very, very nice conversation here, and one of the things that you started saying was about the EII, the external integration interface, and we created that pretty much 2 years or 3 years after we started. And the reason was that we use a lot of the data inside our graphical user interface. But we also then provided this very, very rich XML interface for any kind of third party to be able to access all the data so they can integrate it into their solution and present it their way.
Yes.
And that has become an absolute massive success. We are integrated into nearly any NMS on the planet. And I can mention, of course, one very big one, the Skyline Communications data miner, which is extremely popular by you know, all the big telcos and all the big broadcasters. And we have a huge, a very, very rich interface with that, where any kind of data that we actually monitor or provide can be accessed by the system if you want to. And that's an example again of the openness for data structures. We have all the data and we want you to use it. We don't sit and, oh, you have to do it with our system, etc. No. Every single point of data is available from the EII and from other kind of interfaces as well. So sharing the data, it has been always a big point for us. It's not, and with ISM, we take that to another level, because we can then actually use and integrate that data from any kind of source. Again, you can go from uncompressed all the way down the line to terrestrial distribution and OTT. And we feel that that is the modern way of doing so. And that means that instead of looking at a single probe as a freestanding unit, which of course it can also be used as.
They all have their own web interfaces.
Yes, that's very true. So if you want to use it directly, you can do so, of course. But it really, really shines when it's part of a system. And again, it dawned on us because, you know, we work with this every single day. So sometimes you don't see what's right in front of you because you're so used to it. And we've been doing this for forever and ever, let's say with this web interface. So when the pandemic kind of hit and everybody was doing remote, well, that was a piece of cake because everything we do is remote.
Yes.
So it was, you know, we had some good sales after the pandemic struck, and the philosophy sometimes didn't strike us, and that's where we started with discovering that with the help of ISM, we could rediscover and try to actually tell people about some of these ingenuities that we kind of forgot because we just take them for granted every single day. One example that I must say first is, again, that in our management system, you know, the VBC system, brilliant system, created, created by our enormously talented Nils-Jørgen Zapfi, you know, head of development. And you know, you only need to input the IP address of a probe. It's that simple, and then it starts accumulating data. And the next thing you can do is to print out a report or do whatever. I mean, that's so simple that it didn't dawn on me until, you know, kind of not so long ago, that this is an extreme feature. Nobody else has this simplicity. And that's worth a lot of time and effort for all our customers. So that's the reason why we want to tell people more about this.
I mean, a question which you probably weren't prepared for, which is always the best questions, of course. They were saying showbiz never work with children or small animals, so I'm going to break that rule.
Or computers.
Or computers. I'm going to break that rule immediately. But you said something that struck me, which was you just input the IP address. I don't know whether you've noticed, but the world has a lot of viruses in it. Not least of which that affect people, and I'm just wondering. So I know we've had a lot of requests to. We've always been very data secure. I know that.
Yes.
Can you say a little bit about what we've done about improving our data security in terms of hardening the system so that it doesn't get hacked?
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, first of all, everything that we do comes out of the box with secure HTTPS. So that's the first thing. You can also, on all our software-based systems, incorporate certificates, basically your own certificates, if you like. And that means that it can be part of a very, very deep chain of security. Usually that hasn't been that big of a concern because traditionally both broadcasters and telcos have run these things on the inside of the network, which is very secure. So they didn't have they didn't need all this security. But these days, it's very popular to connect the probes via internet. And why not? It's a good method of connectivity. So that's why we have improved security tremendously over the years. And this is an ongoing concern. We're never going to be finished with that. And it's a very, very important task. Because again, the structure of the ISM system is that everything can be decentralized.
Yes.
You can have probes where the data are, and you can gather them to some central location or dispersed locations if you like, and then do the analytics from wherever.
One question which sort of covers the philosophy of what we do. I mean, we started business really back in 2004, 2005.
2004. Yes.
I was there as well.
Yes, you were there.
I was indeed.
I remember.
I was indeed. I was on my way to see a customer, and the customer rang and said, "No, we don't want to see you." And I thought, "Really? Is it my aftershave, my deodorant?" And he said, "No, it's because we've checked you out on the web, and we see that you purely do IP. We do, of course, for us, it's RF is our interest." And I'm thinking, right, but we do RF.
Very true, very true.
Of course, because I think we were a bit early at that time, back in 2004, when we came. We could never be too early, of course, but I think the rest of the market was trying to wonder, well, what are these guys trying to do? Everybody knows everything front and center is RF. You remember the first IBCs and NABs we went to?
Yes.
The really hardcore guys were RF, and they were all in Hall 1.
Well, still the RF guys are pretty hardcore.
Oh, they're pretty hardcore,
yeah,
exactly.
They are.
I mean, we love the hard.
Oh, absolutely.
We got a lot of them working within Bridgestone.
Yes.
But one of the things that we've always very much been focused on from day one was, of course, IP.
Yeah.
Where our origins, in effect.
Well, the key was, of course, that IP grew up about 25 years ago. Because 25 years ago, you could suddenly use packetized data for something more than rudimentary data traffic. And as soon as the capacities reached the capabilities of transporting professional video, which pretty much was 50 megabit 422 10-bit video, then basically I was pretty sure 25 years ago that this will dramatically change the world immediately. And we're now 25 years later, and now it's of course very popular. There's no other avenue than IP-based video. But the good news, as you said, we were very early on with IP, and that means that all that early nice code that we put in the absolute first product is still with us.
Yes.
We use it today with, of course, much higher bandwidth and more CPU and more capacity, but it's still the same accurate code. And that also goes to point in some of our philosophical directions that we try to build upon what we always have done before.
That's a principle of evolution, really.
It is, because again, revolutions can be kind of dramatic.
Yes.
And we don't really want that. We want to keep the stability, because that's also one of the key points. Stable systems. And we're very, very proud, basically, to have very stable systems. Yeah, I'm pretty happy. And to round it off, basically, since we're obviously going to do this presentation another day, in another webinar, I just want to say that this is one of the purposes with ISM, to be able to tell people about all the nice details in this product that people may not actually know. Even some of us doesn't know, because there's so many hidden layers of great code into this that we really feel that it's time to explain some of the niceties without being too geeky.
Well, I think we're going to have an opportunity to do that at a later stage. I know it's one of the things that you didn't want us to mention, but this is actually the first time that we've done one of these, and I think there's going to be a lot more of them. And then we can go exactly into the kind of detail
I believe
that we've been talking about.
And I really hope that you can join me next time as well, Philip.
Excellent.
Yes, isn't that a great desk? I like it a lot. And you got this nice microphone as well.
I have, yes, exactly.
So without further ado, I would thank you for hosting this, Philip. Very kind of you.
I will be seeing you again very shortly.
Absolutely. And thanks to everyone out there listening to us. And see you next time.
Yeah, bye.